What sort of world would it be if we could all read each other's minds? Well, 60 years ago, the BBC ran an experiment to see if extrasensory perception, ESP, existed. Listeners were asked to supply the answers to questions transmitted by mind power. More recently, the ABC Science Program broadcast a similar test by Dr. Ken White of the University of Queensland. Unfortunately, the results were inconclusive. Now, Dr. White has agreed to conduct the first televised experiment on ESP and is asking that you, the viewer, take part. So get your pens and paper ready. Today's Australian newspaper carries a form with spaces to fill in the answers to the 4 questions we'll ask. Here's Howard Gipps.
A few days ago, 5 of us gathered in this room to record the test we're about to transmit to you. Simon Turnbull is president of the Australian Psychics Association.
Anyone can do it, even skeptics.
Simon will be the one attempting to project the answers to 4 questions we'll be asking. His scrutineer, fellow psychic Nigel Lovell, is here to ensure fair play. Also here with the answers in these 4 sealed envelopes is the deviser of the test, Queensland University psychologist Dr. Ken White.
I've been concerned to re-examine some of the findings that parapsychologists claim are scientific, and that is where my interest at the moment is with regard to the experimental outcome, to see whether or not we can scientifically demonstrate ESP.
Dr. White believes this will be a fair and objective test, even though he's something of a skeptic.
I think a lot of people will get a lot of hits, but I would be very surprised if more than a handful got 2 right.
But Dr. White isn't nearly as sceptical as this man, Barry Williams of the Skeptics Association.
Well, I don't mind what it shows. I'm perfectly happy for ESP to exist. It's just that I believe if it does exist, we'd be living in a lot different world from the one we're actually living in.
I'm a little bit of a skeptic myself. You've got to be skeptical if you're trying to get at the truth. You can't be sort of overly gullible, and I'm really against all the fancy, extreme ideas that people have about psychic phenomena. So in that sense, I'm actually very sympathetic towards Barry and Ken. If they weren't there would be there wouldn't be that as great an interest at getting at the truth, you know.
Remember, Simon hasn't seen the 4 correct answers, and neither have we. Only Dr. White knows them. Simon will examine the envelopes one by one and project what he believes are the answers to the questions. But as a psychic, he should be able to tell us now how many he will get correct.
I'd like to feel that I'll get 3 out of 4. And as Ken said, it's unlikely that anyone will get 4 out of 4, but 3 out of 4 is what I feel.
Finally, before we start the test, here's some advice from someone who should know about how you should approach it.
People should go to their feelings. They should relax. They should then build up a picture in their minds. But first, center themselves. Go to their feelings. Forget about anyone else around them.
OK, is everyone happy? Question 1. On the card in envelope 1 is a circle with an arrow inside, pointing in one of 4 directions, left, right, up or down. Which way is the arrow pointing? Question 2. The card in envelope 2 has a picture of a vegetable on it. What is the vegetable?
This is a tough one.
The card in envelope 3 has a letter of the alphabet on it. What is the letter? On the card in envelope 4 is a simple diagram. Describe or draw the diagram, adding a small sketch if you want on a separate piece of paper. Is everyone happy with that? Did you receive the answers Simon was projecting? Do you feel that was successful transmitting to them?
Yep, I think that system will work, yeah. Because this is basically clairvoyance. clairvoyance test with precognition thrown in, at least in my case, because I was able to focus for a little longer than most other people.
Now please post us your answers on the sheet from today's Australian newspaper. Include your name and address and the other details if you like, but they're not compulsory. The data will be treated confidentially, and after we've worked it all out, we'll report the correct answers and the results of the test.
So they should be able to get it. If anything starts moving in their rooms, that's not our fault.
Howard Gipps reporting, and just in case you're wondering, we've asked our psychic Simon Turnbull to write down what he transmitted, so even if his answers aren't correct, we'll know if you came up with the same answers. Remember, the questionnaire is printed in today's Australian newspaper. If for any reason you can't lay your hands on a copy of the newspaper, we will accept answers on a sheet of plain paper so long as they are legible. Now, you can send your answers to us here at A Current Affair, the Great ESP Experiment, Post Office Box 465, Willoughby, New South Wales 20...